And so we're live. We can begin now? I guess so. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we will go ahead and get started then. Let's see, Pam and Andrea have set out our agenda, our study session topics. So yeah, we might as well just go ahead and jump right in to subject A, and that is the review of the schedule for the Downtown Historic Project. Do you want to take that, Andrea, please?
Yes, I will. Can you see the schedule here, everyone? Yes?
I see Zoom.
You see Zoom, you don't see the schedule.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I see a couple of tabs on it. SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint.
Let's see.
No
Oh dear.
SharePoint.
So Andrea, unshare, and then, yeah, because I think it's sharing your desktop and not your presentation.
Okay.
Oh. That's why we saw ourselves.
It happens to me at council all the time. So.
Okay, how about that? You see that? No.
Probably hit share screen again because we just see ourselves.
Yeah. There we go.
Yay.
All right, sorry for the delay. So Kim and I talked, and we thought it would be a good idea to talk again about the Downtown Historic District schedule. We've talked just a little bit about it before, and now we have a more fine-grained schedule, which I'll get into in just a minute. But I wanted to go over this previous schedule that you've seen because it gives a good overview before we dive a little bit into the details. And so here you can see that the project goes from September, and yes, we've already started, and it goes all the way through December of 2021 when it goes to City Council for consideration, the Downtown Historic District. And the project really breaks down into 3 phases. You see in yellow here is in large part but assisted by the HPB staff. We have 3 work groups set up. And the first one, as we know, is an update to the downtown surveys. Those surveys were done in 1997, and they need a little bit of work to get ready for our project. The next work group is going to be looking at contributing and non-contributing buildings, and also proposing a boundary for the district. And then the third work group is going to be looking at historic themes. And I think we may still have a little bit of room on those work groups for work group 2 and 3, if anyone is interested and wants to jump in with that. Okay, so that takes us all the way through April of next year. And I am project managing each one of those, and we've got them lined up so that we can do the work in order, and the staff has the bandwidth to handle it. Beginning in May is when we get into community engagement. And May is the month when our consultant, Kending Keast Collaborative, KKC, releases the draft Historic Preservation Code for all of us to take a look at. And there will be an opportunity for the board to take a look into the specific wording that is set forth. We can talk about the code a little bit later and HPB's involvement prior to the release of that draft. But for now, we'll just talk about this phase 2 of the overall project. We'll have that draft released, and shortly thereafter, 1 month, we will have the public draft of the whole zoning code released, and we will have the project for the Downtown Historic District put together and ready for view by the public. And that will include all the work that the work groups did. It will include handouts and a website for people to go to look for information and ask questions and keep abreast of what's going on with the project. And then finally, the third phase begins in September 2021, and that is when the application is submitted. And it goes through all the provisions that are set forth in the HP code and their timing requirements associated with that. First, for getting in time to the HP board, I believe that's 60 days, between 30 and 60 days. And then there's another 60 days in which to schedule it for City Council. So that is the quick overview there. And then, let's see, this is the fine grain. I'm gonna just kind of make this small just for a minute, just so you can see how many different dates and deliverables are on this. And each of you have a copy of this in your packet, so you can take the time to take a look at it. What we have here is columns for staff, HPB, and then I also put in columns for City Council for their actions, and KKC for the few deliverables that they will be making that greatly impact our project. And so as you'll see as you go through here, the work groups are lined up on here, and the deadlines for getting deliverables to staff. There will be presentations by the work groups. And so the deadlines will be PowerPoints and other presentations that need to be to me in time so we can meet our deadlines to get it into the packet for the whole group to see. So that's how we get through the work groups. And then as we get into phase 2, public engagement, we'll start to see some more stuff happening with the public, and some of these dates and activities will be filled in as we go along. And then finally, the phase 3, we have all of these dates filled in with the public hearings. So that's the overview. And then I have some tabs, additional tabs on the bottom, and you can take a look at the handouts that staff is going to be putting together, both for the website and to give out to property owners on Main and Alamo Street, so that they have a nice, lovely folder, full color, to take a look and see what a wonderful project it is and all the benefits and obligations that go along with historic district designation. We've got work group 1, 2, and 3 kind of fleshed out. If you're in one of these work groups, what you're going to find is that while I have the different work products kind of set out, there's going to be a little bit of flexibility in exactly what that needs to look like. And so we can have a little bit of back and forth on how to actually get things on time and ready for each of the HPB meetings to make a presentation to the rest of the group. So, and work group 1, which by the way is Chris and Rick, we have already been working on some of those deadlines and how that's going to work. And I look forward soon, in the next couple of months, to get going with work group 2 and then eventually work group 3. So that's how it lays out. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to give it a shot at answering it.
Anybody have any questions first for Andrea? And then work group 1 is the historic building surveys and the survey updates. And there's a deliverable on October 7, which is coming up scarily soon. So, let's go ahead and get an update on where we are with that. And Chris, if you wouldn't mind just kind of speaking generally about survey and what kinds of things are going on.
Sure. So Rick and Andrea and I met last Tuesday, and we talked about trying to use the tablets and the software from Discover Denver. And we've hit a little bit of a hiccup or a bump in the road with IT trying to, coordinate with them at this point. I spoke with the software developer last Wednesday, and he said, there's the potential to use the custom software on the iPads, which we all have, but it would take a little bit of time for them to try to do that, and a little bit of money.
Okay, Chris, if I could just interject here, we do have an update, and that is that we will in fact be getting the Samsung tablet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Once it all came out that the Kindle doesn't have a
Camera.
have a camera with it, and how difficult and clumsy that would be to get through this, then I think we're able to justify purchasing the Samsung product.
Okay.
So we'll be getting there, I hope, any day now.
Oh, okay. Well then.
That's good.
Yay. I guess that kind of changes my update then. Because we had gone to a plan B where we were going to print out the old surveys and just kind of go down the street and take some notes. And we might end up, starting to do that until we get the tablets going. And it's something where I'm so familiar with how to, enter that data that if we have to enter it after the fact to get the project moving, that I don't have a problem with that. But our plan is to go through Main Street and Alamo, take a couple of new pictures of the buildings and look at the integrity side. And we've talked a little bit, there's a presentation that I just got a hold of yesterday that has significance and integrity. And it kind of talks about why we need the two for eligible resources. And we already know what's significant about the downtown district. That's already been established. So we're just looking at this point at the integrity, the condition, how much original fabric, does it look like it did, for the period of significance for the district. And with that, we can probably get through this pretty quickly. So then we can get that information onto work group number 2, so they can start looking at contributing and non-contributing assessments for Alamo, and then I guess reassessing Main Street, because I guess a couple buildings have maybe had some work done where they've restored some features that were missing, and so they might actually be contributing buildings now as opposed to when the district was done originally. I think that's it. I guess, as soon as we get the tablets, the software developer said it's pretty easy for us to load everything, and it would be fairly simple to swap out the local criteria for, what was in there for Denver. They have their local criteria, so, that's an easy swap out.
And then so we're good to go with actually acquiring the hardware. And as far as the storage fee, the nominal storage fee that the city would be responsible for, that's okay as well. In other words, there's nothing stopping this at this point.
I guess the one thing I can say, and then I'll let Andrea or Jennifer talk about from their perspective. When I spoke with the software developer, because of the scale of the Discover Denver project, obviously this, what they're using is a lot more. And so, their storage cost for the data is $80 a month. And this is like everything they're projecting for close to 200,000 buildings. For what we're doing, we can start out with at least half that amount of storage. And then the photos are just like barely pennies. You pay for what you store. So if we're only storing a few hundred photos, that's what we're going to pay for. And there's always, room to add more to those, but we can always start off on the smaller side because of the scale of our project. And then as we look at wanting to branch out and survey, some of the post-World War II neighborhoods, some of the agricultural resources, other commercial areas, we can, address that storage need at that time.
Yeah, I can give an update on that. So I have a question into IT to inquire about the storage and how that might work, as well as some other sort of logistical type questions. And so hopefully we get an answer on that soon. And then things really start to move, we can actually get the device. And we're looking into, I also have a question about using a device that would be owned by HLI for city use, and getting an answer on that, and then getting that software loaded up, figuring out the piece about storing the photographs and the other bits and pieces that we've talked about within the group.
And at some point, when we're looking at doing more survey, outside of just the downtown district, the software developer is more than happy to do a presentation to show everybody what it looks like, the different things it can do, the kind of information you can extract from it, reports and that kind of thing. So whenever we're ready for that, he would be more than happy to do that. And the other thing I want to throw out too is, if we need his help with setting up some things, he talked about there being a charge for it, but he said he would rather have this software be used by other communities than have us say we can't afford, $400 to $600 for him to work on a couple of things. And so he said he is very flexible with if there are any costs associated with them getting this set up for us. So I just wanted to let everybody know that too.
Well, that sounds terrific. And I think, one of the things that we are all mindful of is, the dire straits, financial straits that the city and everybody else is finding themselves in right now. So, we have to be respectful of that. And also, I really appreciate your, willingness and creativity with coming up with Plan B instead of letting the devices be the gating item that causes, this not to happen. So I really applaud that. And as somebody who is just, lives and dies by deadlines, as a writer, if I miss a deadline, I don't write for that editor anymore. So I'm always like, Johnny on the spot with Plan B. And it sounds like, it's great that we're moving in the direction of the devices, but Chris and Rick, I think, you're smart to kind of look at this and say, well, okay, I'm not going to let that stand in our way. What do we need to do to just, because these are a handful of buildings, really, when you think about it. So
I think we can knock this out pretty quick. I mean, between, Rick and myself, and Andy offered to help, step in if we need some assistance. And I feel like we can do this fairly quickly. I know when we met last week and Andrea said by the 7th of October, and I was like,
I know, that's scary.
What do you mean? That's like 3 weeks away, but
well, that's one of those dates we don't necessarily have to get all of them done. I offered you to make a new plan on that. We can do half and half for what makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we'll start with Alamo because we know enough about Main Street and we really are trying to get going on Alamo. So I think that might be a better way to go with that one is to start on that side.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And I would be more than happy to jump in and help. I know we can't have more than 2 people on the committee, but if there's a day that I could go out with you, Chris, or you, Rick, and just help with it, I'd love to. So I'm sure
I'm typically off on Fridays and Sundays, so it might be that I could get out on a Friday and do a little bit with someone, and then Rick could get out, on a Saturday when I'm working with somebody else. Absolutely.
And again, it does sound like fun. So if anybody wants to jump in, just feel free to contact Chris.
I think until you, we pass these buildings all the time. And you notice different bits and pieces as you walk by, but like when you're standing there, like physically trying to look at the building and pull all these things off of it and put that into a database, like that, this information is going somewhere, and you notice things that you may not normally notice. So I love it. We've done about, I don't know, a few hundred properties already in Northwest Denver, and it's fun. I love it. So I'm excited to get to do that in Littleton and eventually branch out from the downtown, because we have so many amazing resources, especially some of these post-World War neighborhoods. So anyhow, that's where we're at.
Well, that's very cool. Andrea, do you have anything to add on the survey piece of the schedule that you handed out?
You know, I don't at this time, but I'm really happy with the progress that we made. And as you said, Kim, the plan B was a good one. We may need to start with that depending on how quickly we get these devices in hand. And I think we're in good hands. And we'll be having some great presentations in the October and November meetings from these two.
Excellent.
Andrea, quick question. You were gonna print those forms. Are we still gonna do that?
Yes, that's in the works. So those,
Okay.
I haven't gotten a date back from when they'll be ready, but the
Okay.
order is in.
Okay. Just let me know when they come in, because I'll be happy to pop down and grab mine real quick and get going on that.
So Chris and Andrea, how fast can you buy the device, Andrea?
How fast can we, well, do you have a sense of that, Jen? How fast this is going to go from here?
So we actually think we might already have one. We're just trying to find it because we had it and we gave it back to IT and we're not sure what they did with it. Otherwise, you know, if tomorrow we haven't found it, then I will authorize the purchase. And we have to do those purchases through IT because they can get a better deal on them rather than us just going out and getting them. So I don't know what the lead time is. I can tell you for our other computers right now and a lot of electronic devices, just manufacturing has been a huge issue with COVID. And so the lag time can be lengthy. So we're really hoping that we can locate the one that we think we have and repurpose it.
Because Chris said Best Buy has it. So I would just go buy it then. Once you tells me again exact one, but I don't know how much. I don't know if the IT could buy one and HLI reimburse you. Probably not, huh?
I certainly can check.
I mean, could do that. That would be easy. It'd save us some money. We can put it into our website.
Yeah, I will chat with the IT. I can even do that right now. I can chat with her and ask her that question.
We purchased ours from Best Buy for like $119.
It may not be that much of a savings to make it worthwhile at $119.
Correct.
$25.
But you know how government purchasing goes. I have to go through the proper channels.
Yeah.
Which is all fine. This is how it all stays straight.
I'll just I'll send out an email to Jennifer and Rick and Andrea with the what type it is, just to make sure
That would
you guys are
be
getting
that
the
would
right
be
one.
great if you don't mind.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'll do that tonight right after the meeting.
Okay.
Well, that's great. Does anyone have any more questions on the survey portion or any other portion, the kind of down the road stuff that Andrea spoke about, that we probably don't have to spend a lot of time on tonight because it is kind of down the road a little bit. But if anyone has any questions, yes, Andy.
Thanks. I was wondering a little bit about the engagement of stakeholders and wanted to run by you guys. If you thought it would be helpful at all, I was imagining if I lived in one of the properties that we were going to be surveying, I would love an opportunity to talk with the folks that are deciding whether or not it's potentially contributing or non-contributing, doing the survey, having an opportunity to learn what's so cool and historic about my building, having an opportunity to provide insight and knowledge about the building. And probably I would be a champion for the project if I was involved early enough. I don't know if that's naive thinking on my part. That's how I feel. What do you guys think about whether or not there's an opportunity for that kind of informal, one-on-one, in true engagement earlier than what's proposed?
I can tell you how it's gone with Historic Denver or Discover Denver Survey is pre-COVID, they had a discovery day where they invited people like to the library and they could bring photos and articles and any information they wanted to share. They could do that. And we collected that kind of at the beginning of the project so that we had that information kind of going in. Certainly while doing the survey, people come out and they're like, hey, why are you taking a picture of my house? And, we tell them about the project. And I will say like 98% of the time, people are interested, they're excited. They start telling us stories. They're like, oh, that person's an original owner. You should talk with them. Oh, that used to be a candy store, before it was that. The trolley ran along there. And so by us being out there, people come out and engage with us. We also do a thing like before we go into a neighborhood where we talk to the RNO, just like the registered neighborhood officer. And we do like social media posts. We talk to the city council person for that area. We're looking at actually expanding into Nextdoor because it seems like a lot of people have gotten away from Facebook because of the privacy issues and the fact checking and all that. And so a lot of people have been using Instagram and Nextdoor more. And so we're looking at posting more information through those avenues. So that's kind of how we've been engaging the public, but absolutely, you want to encourage the owners and make them feel like a part of the process, so that when we start doing the contributing and non-contributing and, we want to include them in the boundary, they're supportive of it instead of against it.
I think that was an excellent suggestion, Andy. I think it's always best engagement and involvement it's better to err on the side of more of it than less of it. That's for sure. Are there any other questions or comments about the schedule or some of the things that are on the schedule?
Well, just as a follow-up, maybe staff can direct us after they've had time to think about it and let us know how we can incorporate that kind of engagement in a way that's consistent with the city's plans and timeline and things like that.
Sounds really good, Andy. Thank you.
Yes, great idea. And Andrea and I had started to have some conversations about that and what that would look like to engage the citizens, especially the property owners, and when. I think when is more the question than what.
What I'd say right now, Andy, with this first survey where we're just updating the integrity of the building, basically, because we have survey forms, it might be a little hard to do that and get this thing done in a week, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. But we're going to have these notebooks. They're going to have all the inventory forms printed out from 97. And if we happen to run into one of the owners, that would be good to talk to them. But we have a lot of absentee owners on these buildings too. So we would need to find out where these people live in order to make that engagement. But for the schedule that Andrea has, there will be a packet going out to everybody rather soon.
Okay, that's good.
But I know people, if you're standing there taking a picture, someone's going to come out, because it's happened to me already on Littleton Boulevard. People appear out of the gutters to see what you're doing. So.
Well, that's really true. I think it was last fall that we kind of updated some surveys that Andrea gave us. I think that was last fall. It seems like 100 years ago. But I know that I encountered, yes, I encountered owners when we were doing that. And mostly, really positive, and I learned stuff. And they talked about their building and whatnot, but also a little bit of negativity. So it's always best to, be prepared for that. And that's kind of the public historian role, the hat that we would wear. So, that's, we need to learn from those examples. And Andy, I'm sure that you have a wealth of kind of best practices on community engagement. So those ideas would be very welcome. Any other questions? Move on to the next thing. And any other questions? I can't see the schedule right now, but the things that are coming down the road, the integrity piece, I guess for late 2020 and into 2021. If anybody has any questions on that, go ahead and jump in. But if we're good, we're going to keep rolling. And let's see what is up next. I have to get to my schedule, which I can't. I think we have Littleton Boulevard update next. And Rick, would you like to, or Andrea, why don't you start with some things that are happening? And I know, Rick, you've been active in that area as well. So Andrea, would you like to start? You're on mute. You're muted.
Sorry, I forgot. We had a dog barking in the neighborhood and I quickly muted. Fortunately, it's done. Okay, so I think Rick has been involved in the larger projects and has more of the exciting news, I think, and I've been, involved in some of that along with him. But I do have one thing to update on, and that is at the Stroke Center, which was the dental office over on Bannock Street. They are in need of some more parking. And if you're familiar with the site, the only place to put it, kind of unfortunately, is in the front. And so there's a circular drive that goes from one side around the back of the building and then over to the other side. And so there will be probably about 4 angled spaces that will jet out into that grassy front lawn. We are working with them on the design. Don't have anything set yet, but they've come in and talked to us about that. So it's just a heads up that there'll be a little bit of activity going on at that Tier 1 property.
Well, they're not a landmark, so they're not designated yet.
Yeah. And I've talked with that property owner over maybe say the last 3 to 4 years a few times about it. He is interested, but the building is owned, the property is owned in trust, and I don't think that the others are anxious to go down that path.
Yeah,
at least not at this time.
I've spoken to Tom a few times the last few months, not about this, because we've done tours through his building, and he's really been very happy about that. So, yeah. But I keep mentioning designations, like, they're protecting the building, but I guess the main thing with that parking, as long as they don't take out those planters.
Oh, no, they're not interested.
Reversible.
Yeah, those will stay intact.
Reversible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, is there any money that city can give them and entice them into landmarking?
Well, I did bring that up, and economic development potentially has some money to help with some landscaping projects. And economic development has recently decided on the suggestion of Rick and me to some extent, backing Rick up, that if they're going to give out money for those properties that are eligible for landmark designation, a condition of approval would be to designate the building. So, I went over this with Tom, the owner, Tom Smedley, and he thanked me very much for bringing that up, but I'm not sure that will do it right now. That wasn't the feeling I got.
Well, that's okay. He's preserving his building, and there's no question, and he'll be included constantly in all these tours. So we'll see. The biggest threat is what's going to happen around that building, since he partitioned off his other properties and they've been sold, I guess. So.
But that is good news about the kind of linking of economic development funds to potential landmarking. That is, I think, a real step in the right direction. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rick can talk a little bit more about that in one of the projects that he's got coming up. to present?
Yeah,
All right. Rick?
the Littleton Savings and Loan Building on right across from Woodlawn Shopping Center. And I've been talking to him, the owner, the owner, what's his name? Shaheen.
Sean Ghaffari.
John Kafari. And then there's a real estate agent that's in the office with him. And I don't know what that relationship is, but she's been pushing this project. And a few months ago, or last year, she got an economic development grant to restucco the building. Then Andrew put me in touch with her and I went out and looked at the building. And it's not just a real simple restucco. So what I did, and they're putting in quite a bit of money on their own to do this restuccoing. And I spoke with them about preservation, how to do it right, and then got a couple more meetings to meet with Sean and Andrew and I and Buck. What's her first name? Beth Buck, who's the economic development person. We all met with him, and we just went over preservation and talked about all the particular benefits he can get, all the additional money he could get, and not only from grants, from tax benefits, but also working with Nancy on carrying over this economic development money that's in little pots to start putting together a very large project. And he already owns a historic building downtown that he's gone through this process with. It's designated. It's the one that's right next to the Town Hall Arts Center, the Italianate one. So he's not unfamiliar with it. It was a delicate discussion because I'm asking him to put in a whole lot of his money, but he also realizes that you got to put in money to make money. And by the time we finished, he was willing to designate his building and move forward. And we know it's going to take a long time to do this. I've also put him in touch with two mid-century modern people who do real estate, Adrian and Adam, who I've been working with on the tours. They're going to talk to him about the broader aspect of marketing a mid-century modern building. And even though he has a lot of little offices in there, a lot of people I think would want to rent an office just to be in the mid-century modern building. I know Adam would, because he's renting an office in a brand new building and he likes mid-century modern. I called the state and they have historic preservation condition assessment grants. There's no matching to it. It's a flat $10,000. I've contacted a couple architects about that. So I'm going to write the grant up and get those architects involved, get an architect involved so he can select one of them to work on the building. So he knows it's going to be a very long, tedious process. But one thing I explained to him was that he's got one of the most important buildings in the state of Colorado. He knows that. That's when it's fixed up, it will look fantastic. Probably make him a whole lot more money. But we need to approach it very slowly and carefully to make sure it's all done correctly. And I explained to him with a good architecture plan, he may actually save money in the long run because you can coordinate activities a little bit better. So I haven't done much lately with that. I was going to look at the application for the grant, which isn't very hard because you have to do very specific things. There's no option to do anything else. The one architect I called, she's done 100 of them. I know her very well. She's done over 100 of them. So she says, when I said, well, what would the price be? And she goes, everyone will give you exactly the same price, $10,000. So we're on our way with the first big project and a very visible one as well. So it'll be coming our way. Andrea needs to revise that nomination form so it's nice and easy and we can get that nominated. So
nice work.
We'll just see what happens. We'll go slowly. I'm glad that he has a building downtown. And the other gal, the real estate agent, she didn't want to follow the process. Sean didn't talk much during the meeting. She talked much, but I watched him. I was up across from him. And he's the businessman, and he understood how it all comes together. So there's a lot of work to be done on the building, and he's owned it for quite a while. So we'll move slowly on that one.
That's great news.
Yeah.
It really is great news. I mean, when we were first talking about the Littleton Boulevard corridor, remember the folks who were on the board that we were saying, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could just get that first person to landmark? So, and I know this didn't happen overnight, and it's just a lot of relationship and work that has gone into it. So
it takes a while to do. Oh, and what was cool was we're standing outside. I don't know if you were there with me, Andrea. I can't remember what day because I've had a couple meetings there. But maybe when you were there, we're standing there, and the IHOP is right next door. And lady comes out and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, we're going to landmark the buildings." She goes, "I own the business right here." She owns the restaurant. She doesn't own the building. She said if she were able to purchase that building, she'd landmark it in a minute. And she's trying to buy it. But, it's owned by someone out of the city. So there's interest. And then, of course, I've mentioned before, Drinkwine Mortuary, they will designate their building as soon as we get an application in. So.
Good. So there's a little chunk right there in the middle that's getting on board.
It's a very visible one. And
yeah.
When you look at the buildings around it, once you fix that screen up and the landscaping, because the one thing that economic grant does is the landscaping. So we're going to restore that landscaping back to the original landscaping. And we even looking at the sign. So it won't be the first sign, but there's a sign there that's rather old that can probably be fixed. So what's nice is that Nancy at Economic Development is willing to work with us in preservation to push these grants forward. It's all about developing economy in the city. And she buys into, if you give taxpayer money to someone, they got to give a benefit back. And that benefit is going to be landmarking. And there's another building on the street that already received a lot of money, got an award. It is eligible for landmarking, but the owner doesn't really want to do it right now. So we can't be in that situation again. Chris.
It's Chris.
I was just going to ask, are you, Rick, are you going to write the local landmark application for Drinkwine?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I found out, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I found out that the house I'm buying, the woman who owned it for like 56 years, her funeral was at Drinkwine. So kind of just a neat connection knowing what I know about the mortuary building. But,
Hey, Chris.
if you need any help with it, let me know.
No, we have the inventory forms.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Angela and I have been talking about this, just having a very simple form in front and you just attach it inventory form.
That would work. That would
make it real
expedite it.
simple. But we have to get that done. Chris bought a house just 3 blocks from my house. There'll be a lot of people in the neighborhood that go to Drinkwine, Chris, because I've been there several times already for funerals.
Now, I hope that's not a sign, but no, I'm supposed to close next week, but yeah, it's a 1955 ranch and has a lot of original features in it, so I'm excited. And I'll be right off Littleton Boulevard, so I will have easy access to all of that.
Congratulations on that house, Chris. Party at Chris's house.
Yeah. Yes, when it's safe, then I will have a housewarming party. Absolutely.
And what I wanted to do with Drinkwine, they want to replace their doors. And I was telling Jennifer Drinkwine, well, I could probably get them fixed because they're not a standard width. And I mentioned this to Nancy, and I want to get them hooked up and see if Nancy can give her a little grant. I mean, this grant can be a great enticement for us on preservation. The other exciting thing on Littleton Boulevard is there's a new coffee shop on the corner of Gallup and Littleton Boulevard, and the gas station across from the Littleton Care, Auto Care. The owner there is Soren. I take my car there. Well, they're going to have coffees open house every Thursday night. And I went to the first one to try to talk to the owner, but he's pretty busy. But I think it's a good place we can showcase Littleton Boulevard and start talking about mid-century modern. It's right in the middle of the block. He wants to have these activities, a very community-oriented activities there. He also is going to be roasting coffee. So unfortunately, COVID's in the way, but I think we have an opportunity. And this is part of the sort of halfway defunct Littleton Boulevard committee. Just keep pushing Littleton Boulevard.
Is this the one next to the ARC?
It was the ARC.
It was the drop-off location,
Yeah,
and
it's a little
okay,
gas
yeah, I've
station.
seen them working on it. I didn't realize it was open yet.
Just Thursday night.
Okay.
He has a business of roasting coffee, so they're roasting the coffee now, but it's just Thursday night. When I went to the first night, if you go by, you'll see they got light strings up there, and the first night they had 5 or 6 vendors there selling things, the guys singing music. There's probably about 30 people there when I went there finally at 8:30. So he wants to make it a very neighborhood place, which is good because there's a lot of apartments right there and a lot of people. I mean, it's a pretty high density area of Littleton, right in that area. So
Rick, the owner is actually a Littleton resident.
okay.
And he has another coffee shop. His name is Scott, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And I do have his contact information, so I will get that to you.
Oh, good.
But yeah, he has another shop down in Castle Rock.
Right. Right.
He has really wanted to have a shop in Littleton, so we're super excited he was finally able to find a spot.
Well, good. I mean, send me he didn't buy the building though, did he? He's leasing it?
I am not sure.
I know I heard that the gas station across the street where Ralph Champ was, they want 1.2 million for it. So yeah. Just
aren't you all glad you already own property in Littleton?
Well, you're right. Definitely. Well, send me this information because Andrew and I, we can get together. We'll get our logo put up there and we'll start scheduling little talks from there. We can start doing tours from there. We'll just see what happens. But it's right in the middle. It's a great place. And I think that's a tier 3 building or maybe a 4. I can't remember. But we don't have many of those gas stations left in Littleton. So
that's really exciting. And it's just so neat to hear with everything else that's been going on that there's progress being made on the Littleton Boulevard corridor. That's fantastic.
Now, I might have another landmark building. I've been working on Bernard Small for years. He owns the Edwardian style house right adjacent to Little's Creek on Rapp Street. It's called the Rapp Street Apartments. And it's basically, if you can picture Richard's little house, go two properties south, just on the other side. It's a big gray house. I'll cover cement, asbestos, shingles. So I've known Bernard Small for a long time. I was in a grocery store Wednesday. He tapped me on the shoulder because he's fixing his porch. So I went over Friday to help him fix his porch and looked at the building. I've never really looked at it. He bought it in 1972, and he's got like, I don't know, 10, 15 rental units in that building. And there's 2 little buildings behind as well. So, of course, he wants everything for nothing, but he's an artist. So when he gets people to work on his building, he brings his artist friends in. So I said, Bernard, you need to landmark your building. It's the only Edwardian style we have in the city. He's not sure what does that mean, but I'll keep working on him. What's interesting, it's been an apartment building since 1939. So I toured through the whole inside. It's not a place you'd want to rent. It's like one of your first rental places just when you're in college, right? I wouldn't probably go there the way it's all broken up, but all the interior wood features are there. You can see them between the wall partitions and everything else.
Oh,
Chris?
neat.
Do you think he would be persuaded by like maybe somebody else on the HPB talking to him? Because he knows, like, you work for the Park Service and you're going to always be like, hey, you got to landmark this, you got to landmark this. Do you think maybe someone else making an effort saying, wow, this is really an unusual architectural style in Littleton, that it would make more of a dent in his resistance?
Well, we can gang up on him. That'll be okay. I only
I
say
didn't want to
that
put it
because
that way, but
I've known him for a long time. I've known him for over 20 years. His son's same age as our son. And he was on the Fine Arts Committee for a long time, years ago. And this isn't his only property. I asked him why he bought it. And he said, I don't know, but in 1971, I did. And it was really hard, but man, it's worth a lot of money today. You can imagine how much it's worth. So I started talking to him about some of the benefits. He's going to get in touch with Nancy Buck for some work, for some talk about economic stuff.
Well, there's also tax credits too. If they get
there's
locally
tax
landmarked, we're a
credits.
CLG, so they qualify for tax credits. That's
Right,
another
right.
added economic benefit that they
He
should be
wanted
tapping into.
He wanted to partition his land off because he's got these apartment units behind. That didn't work out well. The house the siding is probably in really good shape since it's been covered since at least the 1950s with this asbestos siding. The only problem about removing it is it's going to be all lead paint. Could spend $100,000 just dealing with that part. So he's got to look at the whole thing, but we'll have to see from the preservation board what I can talk him into. He's lived in Littleton a long time. He loves downtown Littleton. So,
Well, I want to go see this. I'm in.
if you're around, just go down there. He's gone this week. He went back to North Carolina to help his aunt deal with some property issues, but he'll be back next week, and we can work on him. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So
No, I'd be happy to meet him and just kind of chat with him a little bit too.
anyone who moves around downtown up towards like the King Supers where I'm at, you probably have seen Bernard somewhere on the street. So I get that in the works as well.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, that's just good stuff. Does anyone have any questions about that or anything? And is there anything that you need, Rick, that's standing in the way of getting one of these landmarked?
No, we'll just get the form done and then we'll start moving. I mean, there's no real rush. I think what's really important for the board is to define how we're going to deal with certificates of appropriateness and identify reasonable things that we're going to focus on so people don't get nervous about nitpicky too much. So they're interested. The properties aren't going anywhere. That's just another discussion that we need to have. We're going to have it anyway for the downtown. So just something to think about. Where on the nitpicky to the broad level do we want to be on certificate of appropriatenesses? And those who've been through a few of them in the past, think about what you liked and didn't like. And so we can relay information to the property owners to alleviate any myths or fears or rumors they've heard of past events, so we can counteract that and move forward. Let them know that the preservation community in Littleton has heard them and does want to be more careful.
That makes a lot of sense. And I have a question. Is that an appropriate discussion for the updated preservation code? And this is an Andrea question. You're muted, Andrea.
All right.
Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, it is. And we'll have something more for you next month on how HPB will be involved in helping out with that code update.
All right. Thank you. Well,
I have
that's
one more thing, Kim.
Oh, yes.
This is a way for the Historic Preservation Board to get out there and make contacts with people. We all received our little baskets from the city recently, right? With the little goodies. If we all went down to each one of those businesses, I think there were 6 of them. And I assume everybody got the same basket. I don't know. But in my basket, there was something from Vaca, curds, cheese, the chocolate therapist, which is really good, savory spice, in tea bar, and I had something from Skin Essentials, right? Everybody had the same thing. What I'd suggest is when you're downtown, you walk in and just say, thank you for providing this. I don't know if it was a donation or purchased by the city, but thank them for providing that in our basket. And we're all from the Historic Preservation Board, and we just love it, and we love your building. And you'd probably be talking to not necessarily owners in each building, but it doesn't matter because this information will feed up to the owners. So it'd be a good way for all of us to start making contacts downtown in a positive way. So
That's a great idea. And those baskets were lovely. So thank you so much for those. And I am proud to say I haven't actually eaten all of my chocolate yet. So I'm very happy about that. Let's see, I've got a split screen and I can't really read my agenda. Do we have anything else that we need to address this evening?
That was it for the agenda items.
Okay, does anyone else have anything that they'd like to bring up in this study session? Yes, Lisa.
So for the legacy list project, this is kind of similar to some of the things that we've talked about. But one like outstanding to do for it is to have a current picture of each building. And so I think there's 140. So I'm curious if I were to like divvy them up geographically, if anybody would be interested in maybe splitting up pictures. Okay, cool. Andy and Chris?
I will.
I have two.
Okay, awesome.
Can you live
under 10 pictures, but it would give you a chance you can go out and talk to people or see if people talk to you.
Can you live with cell phone pictures? Is that okay?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, the cell phone quality is so good now that I think, and it's going to be so tiny on the computer when it goes into the GIS, so it'll be fine. Yeah.
That would be great.
Yay. Okay, I'll send out an email. I'll split it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Oh, 6, 7. Okay, well then we're all going to do.
I have a question for Chris.
Uh-oh. Yes.
Because you're using the Samsung, right? Should we use that to take the pictures and start building our database? What do you think?
The thing is the pictures are tied to an address, so we would have to load all of those addresses in to be able to connect those pictures to the data. That might be more of a question for the software guy, but I'm sure we could find out.
Because we may want to do inventory forms on them anyway in the future.
Yeah.
Right, even though they have inventory forms.
But the question is if Lisa wants to get this done sooner rather than waiting for us to and if we're focused on Alamo and Main Street, it might not be
I agree.
feasible to do that right now.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to ask of you, Lisa, is when you send out the list, if you'll have like a targeted date you would like this done by, because I'm kind of I've got so much going on that if I know there's a date that you want this by, then I will work towards that date. If you just kind of say, oh, whenever you have time, then I'll keep kind of setting it aside. So give me a date and I will get it done by that date for you.
Yeah, I'm picturing probably with the number of people that we have, it's just each of us being on like one street. So it won't be a ton of pictures. And then you would
let us know.
Lisa, my cell phone doesn't take good pictures.
Yours doesn't?
No, you gotta have an Apple phone. Those Androids aren't very good, at least the ones I buy.
Well, we can see how the quality is and then we can retake them if they're not aren't good enough.
Let us know any guidelines like for consistency too.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably have like all landscape or something. I'll send some quick instructions.
That'd be good.
Well, it sounds good. I'm certainly happy to snap a few. That'll be great.
Maybe do a sample picture. Like this is a good example of what we would like to see, and that way we know like how much of a sidewalk you want in or don't want in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think probably in terms of timing, I want to get them before the leaves come down so that the pictures are still kind of pretty.
Good thinking.
And yet, when we survey, we want the leaves gone because you can see more of the building that way. And
Exactly.
it is so hard to survey and to, like when I'm going through quality control to try and look and see like, well, what window were they talking about? All I see are trees. So
Yeah.
there's pluses and minuses, I guess, to that.
Yeah.
We'll do the pretty ones first and then the architecture ones later.
Yeah. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lisa. That's good. It's nice to move forward on that project as well. So we have a lot of stuff in the hopper, and we're doing a lot of neat things. I mean, this is really exciting. I'm so glad that we took the time to meet tonight. Is there anything else that we need to cover? And I'll throw that to you, Andrea.
Well, I am done with my items for tonight.
And I don't see any other items on the list. So
Yeah, the agenda had the 3 items.
Jennifer has her hand up. Jennifer.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to give you guys an update of where we are with phase 2 and ULUC. So phase 2, we have a study session with City Council tomorrow, where if you remember, you guys did a 6-1 vote with 3 conditions. Planning Commission was, actually you guys were unanimous. Planning Commission was 6-1 supporting the phase 2 amendments with 4 additional conditions. And then what came out of the first reading and kind of HPB and Planning Commission was there are some items that still needed to be addressed prior to the October 6th public hearing. So a lot of those items will be discussed tomorrow evening. So I encourage you all to tune into that. And then the actual public hearing will be on the 6th of October. And then we will take a tactical pause, if you will, and then we'll kick off the Envision Studio for the next building block, which is mixed use corridors, on November 9th. And there may be some things that do occur in the time frame between the 6th and the 9th, but that is pending outcome of the discussions tomorrow. So.
Okay, that sounds very good. And then I guess if we don't have anything else for this study session, first of all, I appreciate all of you being here on the last evening of summer. It's kind of hard to believe, but thank you so much for coming. And yes, Rick.
Kim, I just have a question for the whole board.
Yes.
I'm having trouble with my iPad downloading the agendas and stuff. Is anybody else having problems, or is it only me?
It is the 2 of us.
And David?
iLegislate has never worked for me.
It's okay.
Oh.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go in and talk to Colleen again. I'll tell her that other people are having problems getting it downloaded. It downloads at the school, at the building, but not at home.
So I've already been into the city center building once to have it fixed. And then I noticed when I was trying to look at it yesterday, it wasn't there. And so I emailed her and Pam this morning.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, Colleen's response didn't get to me. And I went to pick up my basket and I was supposed to take my iPad in this afternoon. And I didn't get to do that because I didn't see that. And I didn't get notifications at all today on it. But she said that it was just the 2 of us that were having problems with it. She goes, you and Rick just can't, like it doesn't seem to want to connect. So she was going to uninstall it and reinstall it and see if maybe that would reconnect it.
And this is iLegislate we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I every time I call up iLegislate, it's blank. There's nothing there. And
the stuff I see is from July.
Yeah, I have nothing. So I just always do it on my PC and don't even worry about it, but we should be able to do it.
That won't work when we start meeting in person again. We're gonna have to figure out this thing. And I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, so definitely continue to work with Colleen on that, and if we have to, we can send it to IT.
Okay.
And just see if it's a dud.
Then my other question is, my battery runs out really fast, and Colleen showed some way to get all these files off off the computer, or I can't see them. I don't remember how you do that. If anybody
just swipe
knows
'em.
how to do that, I can't. I'm swiping all over the place, and I touch things. ITV comes up. I get the stock thing comes up. I try to get rid of it. I don't want any of this on there. So maybe we could all help each other if you do this iPad thing. I don't know.
Well, I am sure Colleen would not mind assisting with that and showing you how to get rid of the stuff.
Yeah. No, she's very nice actually to do this stuff. So, okay, that's all I had. Technical issues.
I'm actually glad to hear you're having the same issues that I am. So.
Yeah, this is where my iPad is right here. I'm not even using it.
So, okay, well, then I guess we are ready to adjourn for the evening. But again, I want to thank you all for being here. And I think that, you know, sometimes even when it seems like we don't really have a lot to talk about, I think it's really important that we get together and we just see what's going on and, you know, keep apprised of the different projects we're working on, and maybe we can help and maybe we can contribute ideas. So I think this is just so useful. And this one was great because we heard so much good news about things that are happening with various projects. So thank you very much, everyone, and send you know, kind thoughts to Sarah and also to Laura, who I don't know if you all heard. I got this email from her that said, I am really sick and I am just going to bed. And that was at 5 o'clock tonight. And it was like, oh my gosh, I hope she's okay. So
Right.
send good thoughts to Laura. Anyway, so I think we're done.
Okay.
I think we can adjourn, and thank you so much and good night to everyone.
Bye-bye.